Good morning and welcome to this morning's edition of the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Finyefolu Falodun and I will be holding down the talk this morning. I trust you all are very well. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to come on the show every morning from Mondays to Fridays. We hope you are telling your friends and your circle of influence about the show. Please share the link, tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. You get the gist. Just keep the ball rolling and let people know what is happening on this part of the internet. We're glad to have you at the other end. For everyone who is regular, we are glad you are there, and it's our pleasure to always come on with you every morning. And for those joining us for the first time, hey, you're welcome to the family. You would like it here. We are sure of that. Every morning we start off our show with the headlines from and within the world of education, and then we go to the topic we have to discuss for the day. It's always a really beautifully packed show, and it's always a very beautiful morning on the show. Good morning, Hamigwe. I see you this morning. Good morning and welcome to the show. So this morning we will be starting off as with the headlines from the world of education. The first headline is "We prepare WAEC's penalty fees," says principal. So, the principal of the Deeper Life High School in Anambra State says that had said that the school does not mind paying the price to achieve excellence and maintain high standards, and because of this, they are willing to pay the low candidature penalty charged by WAEC, the West African Examination Council. Every school is expected to field a minimum number of students for the examination, and for them, they may not have that minimum number, but they are willing to pay that penalty just to make sure that their students are not disenfranchised, that their students have the opportunity to take the exams. They're willing to go all the way to ensure that the students have the best opportunities. They have what is required of them to move on from there to a higher institution. I mean, this is the kind of attitude that we should have as practitioners and stakeholders in education. Kudos to the Deeper Life High School in Anambra State. And here is me praying that they really would not have to pay this penalty for long. They would have more students to meet up with that minimum number that should field. The next headline says NGO to empower 1 million pupils. And we've been talking about this collaboration, cooperation, combination between stakeholders, and recently we're seeing more of that in the news. Many NGOs, foundations, and all of that. So some of them do a lot of these things um, outside the media, but hey, it's good for us to hear them, to see them, to read about them, to know that yes, really, there are people who are very committed to the education sector in Nigeria. So the Stella Initiative, which is a non-governmental organization, has committed to educate 1 million pupils on drug abuse and to give 5 million pieces of stationery to pupils in disadvantaged communities in Benin, Kano, Oyo, Enugu, Kogi, and others. They're launching this drive on April. No. The drive was launched on April 5, and they have been moving around to impact the students in low-income communities and to arm them with the knowledge they need to have on drug abuse, staying away from drugs, what is drugs, and all of that. Kudos to the stellar initiatives, and I'm hoping that more organizations, foundations join them to do this similar kind of things. Proprietress tasks school owners on revitalizing public schools. Yeah, was it yesterday or earlier in the week that we talked about not no a proprietress actually talked about the need to like close the gap between the private and the public schools, to ensure that no matter which a child goes to, that is important is that they have good quality education. They're exposed to the best of standards. They have every opportunity that should be open to any child in the education system. And so the proprietress now of Standard Bearer School, Mrs. Modukwe Desonya Oni, has also stressed the need for private school proprietors to help in revitalizing the public school system in the country. Many of her generation went to public schools. Many of our parents' generation, the public schools, all the way from primary to secondary to the university, and we see the kind of products that they are and what they return. So the problem is not about the name. It's not whether it is public or private. The problem is that along the line, we have the standard has dropped, and then we're beginning to move from we're beginning to move and shift to make it look like, oh, this is for the haves and this is for the have-nots. We're hoping that other private school proprietors listen to this plea, listen to this call, and are willing to make adjustments and to contribute their quota to making public schools a lot better for the students and the learners. We've been joined already by somebody we call Omotala. She is also known as the funding magnet. Good morning, Omotola, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You have come in at the time that we're reviewing the headlines from the newspapers regarding education. So as we go on to take the other headlines, we would be taking your thoughts also on the headlines.
Sounds good.
Okay. UK unveils 5-year girls' education action plan. The United Kingdom has launched the Girls' Education Action Plan, and they're looking out to set out the steps that the UK will take globally to get 40 million more girls into school and 20 million more girls reading by the age of 10 by 2026. What's your thoughts on this, Omotola?
Yeah, I think it's a really incredible plan in terms of their commitment and making it, even declaring their declaration. That's what I'll call it. In prioritizing girls' education. But for me, I always believe that it has to be balanced. Yes, it's wonderful that they're investing in girls, but at the same time, I'm like, are they making the same plan for the boys as well? I know, yes, it's easier to think that, oh, the girls are behind, but I think that there needs to be like that balance. But overall, I think it's an incredible initiative, and I really hope that they are able to achieve it and make it something that can now be like a reference point or a case study to now use to create better programs and better educational plans for girls and even boys as they keep growing and developing in that process. And so that will be my thought right now on it.
All right, thank you for that. I've always thought about the need for us to balance these things. We're seeing a lot of improvements in our girls. Yes, they're still vulnerable. Boy children too are very vulnerable. Uh,
Absolutely.
we really do not look at that aspect of their vulnerability. We look more at the aspect of them being stronger so they can get out to work more for themselves and all of that. But if we look at the trend of what's going on now, we're seeing a lot more of ladies who are, yes, they're accomplished, they have the education, they have the
Mm-hmm.
work, the jobs, they're earning their keep, they're paying their bills, but then they fall into the hands of these guys who attention
Exactly.
was not paid, but what was not paid to, and
Mm-hmm.
really, there's a need for us to balance that equation
Yeah,
and ensure
absolutely.
that,
Yeah,
yeah,
continue.
you're saying.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what you're saying that, yeah, that is so key because that's also the trend I'm saying is that, yes, the girls are thriving, they're trying to, but at the end of the day, thinking of the kind of culture that we are from and the kind of environment, especially in the African continent, and I even think in some other parts of the world, it's, yes, it's good to like train the girl child, educate them, but if the like distance between the kind of training and development they have is now further away from what the people they end up marrying or having as partners, or people that are like the lord over them, like they whoever they look up to in terms of the like male kind of gender, then that's where there's the issue. Because that's the trend I'm seeing is like a lot of people feel as if, oh my goodness, I shouldn't brag about my education or my achievement because, oh, because of that I won't find a good spouse, I won't find a good partner, or they'll think I'm too proud and things like that. And so that's why I also am very on the side of like, yes, it's great to have these great plans for girls, but we shouldn't forget the boys as well. As because if we are exponentially growing the girls and developing them, but we are leaving behind the boys, at the end of the day, due to the culture and the environment that we currently have in most African countries, it's going to sort of like come back and bite us in the in our butt in a way. And so that's why I think that as much as the plan is wonderful, I think they should also create either a similar or like parallel kind of plan for the boys as well.
Absolutely. So, moving on to the next headline. Ogunbodede, OAU has been a trailblazer since inception 60 years ago. Okay, so I'm quite biased about this headline, being an alumnus of Great Ife. So I'm quite biased about this. And as OAU celebrates its 60th year anniversary, the Founders Day anniversary, a series of events have kicked off, and one of them is the I think it was a press meeting with the VC where he's reeled out the achievements that and the strides that OAU has made in the past 60 years. However, as we count or look back at what they have done in the past, I hope they can make that better. I hope they can consolidate on what they have done in the past and leave past glory and begin to put more footprints in the sand now and going into the future. Yes, OAU is known to be one, if not the best, the most beautiful campus in Nigeria, Africa, but let's even be a little humble and say Nigeria. Yeah, let's say humble and say the infrastructure is actually really, really beautiful. And
Mm-hmm.
I see that they've been adding touches to it, adding color, it's the maintenance of the infrastructure recently is commendable, but aside that, we should have a lot more in area of research. We've had a lot come out of there, but it can be better. And
Yeah, and
one
I
thing we do
absolutely
well,
agree. Mm-hmm.
one thing we
Yeah,
do very well in Nigeria is recounting past glories, and we sit on that and
exactly. And
there.
that needs to change because I think the world is leaving us behind. As much as
Yeah.
they're celebrating what they've done in the 6 years, I think it's time to actually shake up the system, especially the university system or polytechnic system that we have in Nigeria's and colleges and university. One of the things that I would say they need to look into is what we call distance education, which is like, let's call it what it is now, online. Like, look at what COVID-19 has done in the past 1 year and how that has disrupted a lot of educational setting and like even the what do you call it, the progress of students, because we did most universities in Nigeria, they don't have the online version sort of like really down. They don't have a plan, they don't have a process, they don't have a like the protocol to be able to like go online if something like this, like when this pandemic hit. And that's the difference I'm seeing between Nigerian universities and other countries, is that it was not that easy for most university. I think majority of them could not even undo it. And I think that's an investment opportunity to invest in that side, to invest in growing that muscle and getting better. And I think it will even open up more chances because if you think about it, across Nigeria, not just like OAU, most universities across Nigeria, they don't even have full capacity to even have students in the face-to-face version. You think every year,
Mhm.
like a set number of students apply for JAM, for WIEC, they pass, they do all of these processing, but they always a cap for the number of students they can take per department. Imagine they, like, let's say OAU decide to be like the pace setter or the leader or the person, the school that sets the pace and like be the first like adopter and create like a really online curriculum that is still rigorous, that is still excellent, that can definitely like sort of like stand face to face or stand parallel to the face to face programs they have and build. They don't necessarily have to do it in all of the um department and courses, but at least like some specific ones needs to go online at least for starter to just test it. I think that can increase their capacity, that can increase their reach in more students, and that can even bring more funding. And I like what you said about research as well. Research is so key and critical, and you're right, most universities are not doing it right in Nigeria as well. And there's so much opportunity, like even funding for researchers, for lecturers, for professors, for even students who are interested in research to get research money to test theories, to develop new solutions, to try new things. But that's another like thing that we are under like utilizing right now in the education system, especially as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Moving on to the next headline. UTME, candidates to blame for 80% of registration problems. So the Joint Admissions Matriculations Board is saying that 80% of the registration problems that the candidates are facing is due to their putting in or wrong information, sending wrong commands for NIN, sending wrong messages for the profile code, and they're saying that the issues registering for this year's exams are created by the students. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I do actually have a lot, but I'll try and keep it. Like, I think this is unfair in terms of them passing the blame and saying that 80% of the registration is for the candidate. I think the system, they've not built the right process and system to serve the student in the first place. So think about it, like most of their websites are either outdated, there's no contact person, there's no person to call or to chat with if there's an issue, if you have a question to answer. Also, most of them, they don't even take the time to even curate like frequently ask questions and provide answers. They don't even do what you call like little modeling of, okay, this is a 30 seconds or 1 minute video to show this is how to do this is how to log in. I think all of those things are necessary and important, but I think the current kind of like system that we have with the UTME, those that manage them, they overlook these things and think that, well, they should just figure it out. Not everybody knows technology or computer or knows how to like operate technology the way that things are now moving online in most of this registration. So I think it's really unfair to say that 80% of the registration problem is on the candidates. The question is, did they put a lot of like check in place to make sure that, okay, for this question, if they cannot reach a live person to answer a question on the phone or through text or email, most of them, I've even tested it before, where you send them an email, you don't get any reply, not even like a automated reply to say, sorry, we got your this thing, we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Nothing of such. Also, they don't even take the time to even answer their calls, and there's no one to really touch base with like real life, except if you show up in their office and spend hours and hours trying to get somebody to really attend to you and take you seriously. So I don't agree that 80% of the problem is with just the candidate. I think both sides have equal blames on both sides. I think there's equal blame on both sides, and more on even the administrative than just the candidate itself.
Thank you very much, Amotola. And good morning and welcome to the show, Mrs. Titi Adewusi.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Faye. Good morning, Motala. Good morning, everyone
Good
joining us
morning.
on this wonderful Thursday morning. The week has almost ended. Chai.
Yeah, so for some reason today felt what has been feeling like Friday to me. I woke up and it really just felt like Friday. I don't know why. I've been in that Friday head mode since since I woke up.
I used to. I thought it was Tuesday, so maybe that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Fast forwarding me, I'm rewinding.
yeah. Okay. We're reviewing the headlines, and yeah, we've gone some way. We go on with the other headlines that we have this morning. ASUP insists on strike until government implements demands. The academic staff of Union of Polytechnics, they threatened strike. Um, they threatened to go on strike if some of the issues they had raised and the promises the government made to them were not made. But now they are saying that they will continue with the strike until the federal government meets all of their needs. What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this? Okay, let's go with Zadewusi first. What do you think about this? I thought we should have left the era where we are threatening each other with strikes.
You know, my take is always schools, universities. They need to be self-funding. They need to be self-funding. That's really the major. When you look at a lot of the strike, the major thing is always has to do with money, with funding, with promises that sorry, with promises that government said they would, but they haven't done it. The truth is that a lot of revenue from government has, even they are struggling. So multiple demands. It's not easy. I'm not excusing them, but I just still feel the way out for a lot of education is to get more funding in, rather than depend only on one source of funding, which is government. So that's just my general take on this.
Hmm. Okay, Omotala, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, yes, I do. I agree with what um she just said as well, that I think it has been a bit of one-sidedness, and that's why it seems as if there's so much power on the government side when they're able to pay, and then there's power on the staff side and faculty side when they threaten to go on strike. And I agree with you that I think we need to leave behind this um area of like going on strike and everything. So I work like I've taught, and I've studied the system here, like in the United States and other countries, and this is how it works out. Because, like I said, sometimes we need to go back and restructure things. Because there's this quote that says that it is insanity doing the same thing, like doing something the same way and expecting like a different result. And I think that has been the issue that we have currently with the way things are running with our universities and colleges and schools, because we've been repeating this thing. Like I remember before I even got to time to go to university, the strike thing has been an issue. And that was one of the reasons why I made up my mind that I didn't want to have my university education in Nigeria, because I'm like, I don't want to spend 6 years in school when I'm supposed to spend 4 years. I even wanted to spend less than 4 years in school, which I ended up doing. I spent 3 years in my undergraduate. Like that was how serious. That was one of the biggest motivation for me to get out and not study in Nigeria, because I'm like, I cannot take the strike, because the kind of learner that I am, I want to practice what I'm learning, or I want to practice what I'm learning almost immediately. And so to go back to this issue, I agree that there should be a better funding structure, and there are so many possibilities. But I think a lot of our programs and system or our institutions and they're not willing to examine their past results. What has worked? What has not worked? What can we do differently? Like you were saying previously, like most people are riding on past glory, and they're not taking the time to strategically think of, okay, what is like I know like schools here, they think in 10 years, in 5 years, in 20 years from now. They already have a plan, they already have a goal, they know how to raise the money for it. And so when I look at and assess the funding sources for like most US schools and everything, most of them are operating as a non-profit or an NGO. That's their statutory registration for most, even those that are even the government owned or federal state owned and everything. Yes, some money comes from the government, but that's not what they rely on. I think some of the things, opportunity that most of our university are missing is their alumni. Like imagine a school, like think of OAU or even University of Ibadan. I'm sure they've graduated over 15, or let's even assume like, let's say 500,000 students since they've existed, right? Imagine if they can get each of these students to give, let's even just say it's 1,000 naira per month, right? We're not even asking for 1 million, 100,000 or something. Let me just do the calculation, because I like to calculate things and break things down in number. So assuming that, let's say a school roughly have 100,000 students that have gone through them, and let's say out of that 100,000, let's say even 50,000 is what we are even going for, that 50,000 of them are willing to give 1,000 per month, right? So that's 50,000 times 1,000 naira. That's already 50 million per month. Then 50 million times 12, that's over 600 million. But how many schools are actually trying to like check up with their alums, see how they're doing, send newsletter, like do like reunions and things like that, and keep them engaging? Nothing. So that's where funding can come from, but they are not even thinking in it. They're not even investing in it. They're not even making plans to create funds through that. So that could have been 20%, 10%, 30%, I don't know, of the budget that they can use to run, to pay their staff well, to invest in development, in research, in providing scholarship opportunities, loan, student workmanship for students and things like that. So I definitely agree with you that it should not just be on the government. Yes, the government have a part to play, but they have better possibility. Another factor beyond just their student or alums is also thinking about corporations with like, whether it's regional, local, or national corporations and organizations like for-profit business. They can create partnership where they can get sponsorship. Imagine if they can get 10, 20, like MT and Glow, all of those kind of whatever, to commit monthly or quarterly or yearly to pledge a certain amount to giving to those universities or whatever. That's another funding streams that they can think of, but nobody is really making any plan. No university is really trying that. So I definitely agree that there are so many other possibilities beyond just the government in getting funding, and yet they are not even attempting or trying to explore it. So yes, I agree that we should be over this strike and fighting over money and everything, and the university needs to start producing. They need to start figuring out, how can we produce, how can we retain, how can we multiply the funding that we're getting, not just being the stale, oh, until the government give us money, then there's no money. And so that will be some of my thoughts on it.
All right, thank you so much, Omotola. We need to run through the rest of the headlines so that we can go to our topic for today. We saw the University of Ibadan announces resumption of physical lectures. Great, great. We hope everything has been put in place for that. And we still have a number of headlines, but I think we should go straight into our topic for today. We've gone past half the hour already. So we are going on a dare this morning. We're going on a dare this morning. I don't know if you ever played the games where you say I dare you, or to now make it to give you more input, I double dare you. And in some cases we say I double dare you, because we just felt that the person was not going to be able to do what we were asking or what we were going to ask for them to do. So this morning we are taking a dare. This time around, our dares are positive dares that we hope would would get to the right quarters, and that will see the light of day and bring about positive changes in the education system. So this morning we are daring the governors. We are double daring the governors of the states in Nigeria concerning education in their states. It's more like an open forum for our discussion this morning. We're looking at different aspects of education, those things that need to be put in place. Yesterday we saw the case of two Nigerian governors. I think I'll term it like that, where one is increasing fees, one was decreasing fees by 25%, and yeah, that's one of the issues that is plaguing education in Nigeria, but from at all levels, from the creche right up to the universities system. You see that fees keep changing, well, because of the realities of the economy and of the country. But then there are some pertinent issues also that we need governments to look into, especially when it comes to public schools, public primary, public secondary schools. Uh, we need the governors to step up to the plate. And even for the private schools, if legislation is made in certain areas, it makes it easier for them to run. Some of the areas that we'll be looking at, I'll just give a rundown, and then we take as many as we can, as we take your thoughts on these areas. We're looking at data bank and planning. There's a lot of planning that goes on without appropriate data. So we're just taking a guess, or we just work with data that is available in a local area, and then scale that up and feel, oh, okay, if it works this way in this area, then we add, subtract stuff, and okay, in that other area it should work this way, or we just need to add a little bit to it. And this affects planning definitely, and provision of amenities, of material, and all of that infrastructure. We cannot stress this enough. So many public schools infrastructure is horrible. We have yesterday we were talking about potholes in classrooms, and she could not fathom it. You're welcome, Ugochi. You look like you're coming from, I don't know where now. You're coming from space, or you're in space. Your background, your background is
Good
really
morning,
interesting,
everybody.
and
Good morning.
your setup is also quite interesting this morning.
As in, I'm on a different level.
Wow. We can see that. Okay, so those areas, infrastructure, safety. Recently we talked about safety in schools and established that there are certain schools that do not even have perimeter fencing. Curriculum review. What's happening with curriculum in our schools? Budget, finance, remuneration, IT in schools, school materials. How easy are materials to come across in our schools? Hands-on labs. How do we playground equipment for our schools? Um, skills acquisition for the students, electricity, a major one, water and sanitation, recruitment and training of teachers. So these are the main areas, or these are some of, it's not exhaustive, but these are some of the areas that we would be hearing our governors on this morning. And so I would start off with Ugochi and say, what dear would you be putting out to the governors in the area of water and sanitation in schools?
So all schools must have water. They must have toilet facilities so that the children can have something to use. We don't want a case where because there's no water, there's no toilet facilities, and then there's also maybe no toilet facilities separate for the different gender. You know, it's supposed to be separate. It's not supposed to be the same one that both of them are using. You know, yes. So all governors should ensure that all schools under their watch, public or private, all must have access to water and sanitation facilities. All, not some.
All right, thank you, thank you. Omotola, what dear would you be giving out to the governors this morning on recruitment of teachers and training of teachers?
So for me, I'll say I will double dare them to actually invest in like either increasing the capacity in terms of like hiring more teachers. And you're right, like incorporating like regular training, not something they're just thinking of once in a while. But imagine if we have the kind of system and structure and processes in place that once the teacher is hired, there is a like individual development plan or personal development plan for them, where it's like, okay, after 3 months, like you do this, you have a mentorship for like 6 months or something with like seasoned teachers or seasons like trainers or mentor in the educational field to learn up to date things. Because I realize that and it's not just about the academic part alone. So I'm double daring them to invest in training, not just the academic one. Yes, academic one is good at ensuring the teachers are learning new ways of teaching students different learning styles and things like that, but also more importantly in the emotional and also like the psychological aspect of these children as well and the student, because it is so important and key. Yes, the teachers can just focus on the academics, but at the end of the day, there are circumstances and situations that because of the kind of environment or situations or circumstances these students are coming from and their background, it affects what they can do or the potential they can have in their academics. So my double dare will be to say, train them, yes, train those teacher academically, create a plan where like whether it's quarterly, whether it's monthly, whether it's weekly, I don't know, where they'll have access to training, whether it's online recorded already or live training or workshop where they can come together, share ideas, explore ideas with each other, or do like a quarterly conference or yearly conference to bring teachers from all over the country, sorry, I mean the states or regions together to share, compare notes, talk about ideas and innovations that they are doing in their own different areas, what is working, what is not working, like giving them time to think and strategically share and collaborate with each other, and also providing access to even people like people like psychologists, social workers, counselors to really help the students, and also or even training some teachers to be able to double like play those two roles as well. So that will be some in this area that I will be pushing for.
Yeah, thank you, Omotola, especially bringing in the area of having a holistic school team, not just teachers, and then the school system is typically set up to have the teaching and non-teaching staff. So you have the teachers, and then you have admin staff, and generally else we have security, drivers, cleaners, and that's it. But having a total system where we have support professionals who come into or who are part of the school team, counselors, child psychologists, behavioral therapists, because some of the issues that we have in schools that students present with are not things that teachers are equipped to handle. we look at the teacher training colleges. I don't even know if those things still, if those institutions still run, if people actually still go through the teacher training colleges and what exactly is going on there. But that's topic for another day. Today we are bringing the hot issues to the doorsteps of governors and tasking them with um, taking steps and decisive actions on these areas. So when we talk the about budget and finance, budgeting for education and financing education, what would your dear be to the governors? Omotola?
So for me, I'll say one of the dares I would like or double dare them on is creating partnership. Earlier on when we were looking at reviewing the headlines, we talked about the fact that universities and these strikes that they want to go on because they're relying so much on the government. Because I know funding is always the problem. When you look at the Nigerian budget, or they are usually putting education at the very, very low bottom, and the amount of money allocated is not always enough for the need that is it requires to actually create the kind of system and environment that these students need. So one of my idea would be to be more collaborative and be willing to figure out how sharing cost, or being open about their failures, being open about, okay, we don't have the budget for this, we cannot sustainably do this by ourselves. Can we open up partnership? Can we work with corporations? Can we work with individuals and ask for donations, create this kind of things to actually help them bring the funding, and also being transparent and open about the process and what they're spending the money for, and also increasing the money and investment in education. Because the truth is, what Nelson Mandela said is true and is still very, very accurate, that education is the most powerful tool to really, really change the world. And I really feel saddened that things have not changed. Things are not getting better in terms of what the education system can be, especially on the primary and secondary level in Nigeria. So I'm doubling them to increase their funding towards like commitment to education, be more open and collaborative about sharing cost and getting access to the materials that they need, and not be ashamed or saying that, oh, you're trying to take our job away or make us look bad if you say that you need this and we want to provide that for them as well.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Uguchi, I will be bringing to your doorstep an area that I know you are pro in, and we talked about this a little last week, I believe, or was it this week, when we talked about safety in schools. What should the governors be doing in protecting students in their states, in keeping them safe, not just when it comes to kidnappings and all of that, but even within the school? What are the things that should put in place? Grasses, overgrown grasses, cracked walls, all of those things that ensure the safety of a child. What should the governors be putting in place to ensure that the children in their care in the schools are safe?
Okay, so hi, Omotola. I was trying to remember your first name when I spoke the first time. So I'm glad that you helped me with that. Welcome to our show. So to the
Thank you.
question. So first up, the other day we talked about perimeter fencing. So perimeter fencing is so critical because as much as some schools have, a lot of schools do not have. And so at the basic level, every should ensure that perimeter fencing and security is attached. And the reason why security is really important now is because of what's going on in the country. You know, some people say, okay, the private schools might be able to afford some things for themselves. But what happens to the public schools? So we've really got to ensure that perimeter fencing and security is assured. Where schools are dilapidated, they must be renovated, because if a roof somewhere has caved in and because there is no other option, these children are still having classes in those places, it means just one little thing can now happen and then the whole thing comes down on children. There was a story that happened sometime in a state outside Lagos, where a tanker from the previous, not a tanker, a water tank fell on a school building. and fell into a classroom and some children died in the process. That should not happen. Those kinds of things should not happen. So each state must ensure, each governor must ensure that their Ministry of Education works closely with their Department of Public Health and well-being. And if they don't have a safety commission like we have in Lagos, they must ensure that they begin to have something like that so that they can guide schools on the safety prerequisites to be had. Because Lagos State has done a good job, right? But many states do not even have something like a safety commission. So there may be that disconnect because maybe there are no professionals that are pushing it for it to spread across the different, that's both public and private schools now. Because many times it seems that the private schools might be getting it right in some areas, but some public schools are left behind. And we don't want that. Every child deserves to be taken care of, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Whether you went to private school or public school, you are supposed to be protected and safe because you came to school. We shouldn't know that. We shouldn't hear that because you went to school, something bad happened to you. I've talked about perimeter fencing and security. I've talked about renovation of dilapidated infrastructure, which can actually cause accidents in school. Then another thing I would say that they should ensure happens under their watch is also training. Training because and the training is in two ways, for the teachers and for the students. So now we have come to a point in the country where safety has to be included in what is taught in schools. Just when we teach maths and English, safety at the level of the child. So that should be age appropriate. So there should be a part of safety that children in preschool should be learning. There's a part of safety that those in primary school should learn. There's a part that those in secondary school should learn. And then when you get to university, because everybody, every human being must know the basics about safety. And that's because accidents can happen anytime and anywhere. And so, if we are not equipping them, when they find themselves in those situations, they cannot act. So, next week is Child Safety Week. It's run by an organization in the UK. But it is a practice that should be imbibed by everybody everywhere. I put out an Instagram post this morning advising teachers, parents, and school owners on what they can do to ensure that they take part in Child Safety Week. Now, it should not just be a Child Safety Week thing. It should be that every day children go to school, they learn something about safety. It's either it is being taught as a subject in school or it is a tip that must be shared on the assembly ground. So that, because many times we are not always there when children are in unsafe situations, but if we have equipped them ahead, to some extent, they can act. And so that training is so important from the children bit of things so that the children themselves know, and also from the teacher bit of things, because if the teachers do not know, how are they going to pass on the information to the children? So that capacity development on both sides is also very important.
Thank you for that. We are setting agenda this morning and hoping that this would get to the appropriate quarters and to ensure that our education system is really if we get it right at that point, if we get it right at the level of education for our kids, we definitely are going to have a much better society than we have now, and one that will give us rest and peace of mind as we go on. I think we can take one more area before we round off this morning, and I'll be directing that to Motola. What should the governors be doing when it comes to electricity supply and bills for schools?
Yeah, thank you. So I think there is so much more, and like honestly, I feel so sad, and sometimes like I just feel the weight of like all the things that are not going right with our education system, and I'm like, God, like when are we going to do better or become better people or better what do you call it, people that takes care of the asset that God has, because we already have assets. Like think of like in Nigeria, the sun is one of our biggest assets like that we have. And up till now, we've still have not figured out 24/7 electricity. I think most public schools barely even have light or electricity or even lamps and well-lit classroom, which is I think is key and important to get learning and creating that environment that is conducive to learning. And so, in terms of what they can do, I am double daring them. Like I said, part of increasing the budget for like the school is also putting aside that money towards innovation and investment in alternative energies. If we still cannot figure out our electricity that can bring at least 5 or 10 hours, or even the time that students are going to be in school and provide those full electricity and the capacity of what they need. Solar energy, solar power is becoming cheaper and cheaper. There are innovative engineers who are eager, who have ideas, who have the talent, who have the expertise to actually create something beautiful, something manageable, something affordable and sustainable for our part of the world. But how many of those people are they encouraging? Are there competitions? Are there that is investing money and time to say, you know what, the way they do all of these Big Brother show or whatever? Imagine we have a show like that, which is like almost every year or 4 times a year or whatever. We bring all of these young or even old people who have ideas and suggestions, and they compete to come up with the best solution that is affordable to create alternative things to the educational electricity need. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, that was my son. He just woke up from
Okay.
his sleep. But anyway, yeah. So, but just to
Okay.
round up, like I'll really double dare them on that. Is like, what are other alternatives beyond just generators that make sense? I don't even think they can even afford that in terms of like the petrol or diesel that they have to pay for. But imagine we can harness the assets we have in sunlight and turn that into a source of power or electricity that can help to enhance the educational experience of our students, to power the laboratories they need to run the biology, physics, science, or home economics lab, or all of these technical and vocational training labs, or training that they have in centers like that. I think that will really go a long way. So I'm challenging them to think outside of the box, to invest in people and resources that we already have within the country, who can actually help them come up with a solution that will be affordable, sustainable, and be good for the world and good for the education system.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. What we need really lies within us and lies around us. And this is not an exhaustive topic in any way. We still have quite a number of areas and sections of the education system that we really would like to double dare the governors on. But hey, our time is not on our side. We really would have wanted to go on with this. We probably would just have a sequel to this and double dare the governors, see if there is any improvement in certain states by the time we run a sequel, and then take the other parts that we would like to see the governors get up and get doing in. But this morning we'll be rounding off the show at this point. Thank you very much, Omotola, for being here. Thank you, Ugochi, and for Mrs. Titi Adewuse, who was here earlier too. Thank you for being here. Every one of our tribe members who has joined the show today, Eunice Ohamigwe, Olushola Olumide, and everyone else who is behind the scenes who we're not seeing, we thank you for being part of our show today. Please share the link, subscribe to the YouTube channel, tell somebody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and join us every day, Monday to Friday, for inciting, exciting, and a robust package on the Good Morning Education show. We like to say something every morning before we leave. It's our own goodwill message to you. And what I would like to say is our candy that we pass out to every one of our tribe members. Omotola, I'm not sure if you are conversant with that, but we'll take Ugochi and myself. We take it this morning, and then we hope that subsequently you join us also in wishing our tribe members.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, Ugochi, let's take it away this morning.
It's always a
It's
great
always a
morning.
great morning on the Good Morning
The good
Education
morning.
show. Have a great morning, everybody, and
Bye.
have a
Yeah,
great day
awesome.
ahead. Bye.